Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro addressed the population on Monday to deliver his usual annual message to the nation. In Guatemala, Bernardo Arevalo and Karen Herrera were sworn in as president and vice president with an over 8-hour delay. The World Health Organization described the situation in Gaza hellish, given the lack of access to basic services and humanitarian aid. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Rosabal from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro addressed the population on Monday to deliver his usual annual message to the nation. From the seat of the National Assembly in the protocolary hemicycle of the Federal Legislative Palace, the president presented to the deputies all the countries his annual report and account for 2023. Maduro celebrated the support of the revolutionary forces that took to the streets to show the support to the government's administration and the Bolivarian process. Likewise, the Venezuelan president congratulated the members of the parliament for having discussed and approved 77 new laws, which, as a whole, gave a floor to the legal structure that has allowed the country to emerge in the midst of economic and social difficulties imposed by the sanctions of the U.S. and the European Union. Likewise, he thanked the National Assembly for having called the consultative referendum on the territory of Guyana Esquiva in order to take actions of territorial defense. With an over 8-hour delay, Bernardo Arevalo and Karen Herrera were sworn in early Monday morning as President and Vice President of Guatemala after having overcome a series of judicial obstacle raised since they went to the second round in the general elections in mid-2023. The president was sworn in by Samuel Perez of the Semilla movement, who was previously elected as President of the Congress of the Republic after a process that took several hours. The authorities took office for the constitutional period 2024-2028, and the ceremony was attended by several presidents and heads of governments, in addition to a high-level delegation from different countries. During his speech, President Arevalo called to transform the country's political panorama, adding that in recent months there have been a resurgence of old dictatorship habits due to the attempts of different sectors that sought to prevent his arrival to the government.
During this past month, we have faced complex tensions and challenges that led many to believe we were destined for an authoritarian reversal for thousands of people. This month suggested the resurgence of dictatorship in Guatemala. However, the people of Guatemala have demonstrated their wisdom and fundamental institutions, such as the Supreme Electoral Tribunal and the Constitutional Court, have protected the sovereign desire of Guatemalans to live in democracy.
During his inauguration speech, Arevalo also assured that they will not allow violence. Authority sanctions must be used as a means to preserve political privilege or promote political agendas.
The support of the democratic nations of the world have been crucial, allowing us to be here today and allowing me to ratify our first great commitment. Never again authoritarianism. We will never allow violence to be used as a means to promote political agendas or preserve privileges. We will not tolerate intolerance and arbitrariness. We will not allow our institutions to bend again to corruption and impunity.
Let's learn more about Guatemala's President Bernardo Arevalo. Arevalo is a Guatemalan politician, diplomat, sociologist, and writer. He worked for the Embassy of Guatemala in Tel Aviv, Israel, where he served as first secretary and consul from 1984 to 1986. Arevalo was director of bilateral foreign policy in 1990 and director general of the International Economic and Multilateral Relations between 1993 and 1994. In addition, he served as deputy in the Congress of Guatemala for the political party Semilla movement. On January 22, 2023, Arevalo was announced as presidential candidate of the Semilla movement, together with Karen Herrera as his running mate for the 2023 general elections. On August 20th of that year, he won the presidency of Guatemala with more than 58% of the votes. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you find news in different formats, new days, some more. Our studies coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. The World Health Organization described the situation in the Gaza Strip as a hellish, given the lack of access to basic services and humanitarian aid. This was stated by the Director General of UN Health Agency, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, who denounced 300 attacks against the health system of the Palestinian enclave and added that Israel constantly obstructs the delivery of humanitarian aid to people in Gaza. For his part, the head of the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, Philippe Lazzarini, said that the crisis in Gaza is a man-made disaster aggravated by the humanizing language and the use of food, water, and fuel as a weapon of war. Thousands of Palestinians crowded Rafah border hoping to cross into Egypt. This desperation grips Gazans to the lack of vital means to live, such as food, water, and electricity. Our correspondent Huda Hegazi brings us more information.
Me encuentro justamente en los territorios
I am
fronterizos.
just in the border territories of the Gaza Governorate, south of the Gaza Strip, the border territories that separate the Gaza Strip from the Egyptian territories. And as we can see, even in this area, there are people evacuated in tents. As we can see in the distance, you can see the fence. This is the fence that separates the Gaza Strip from the Egyptian territories. As we can see in the distance, there are children near the fences who are talking to the soldiers of the Egyptian army. Even many times we have heard that the soldiers have proceeded to throw these Gazans who live in the border territories some food, some water. They have even tried to provide them with some electricity so that at least these Gazans who are in this deserted area can have some light at night. As we can see, due to the fact that the Rafah city is completely overcrowded, they have been forced to resort to this place to set up their tents and take refuge from the bombardment of the army of the Israeli occupation. As we can see also, it is a deserted area. There is none of the basic necessities of life. It is completely a desert. However, the Gazans are trying by all possible means to try to accommodate or to try to survive this difficult situation despite not finding water or food, or even a place where they can wash themselves or take shelter. However, this is the reality of the Gazans. They have been forced to resort to places like this just to be able to survive and save their lives from the attacks of the Israeli occupation army.
On Monday, the Israeli regime continued its relentless siege against Gaza for the 101st day. Authorities registered more than 60 Palestinian civilians killed in the last hours. At least 32 people were killed in Gaza City after Israeli warplanes bombed two homes in Al-Sabra and Al-Saytan neighborhoods. 33 other Palestinians, including children and women, were killed in attacks in the southern area of Khan Yunis, as well as in the Borek and Al-Maghazi refugee camps. Since October 7th, Israel has killed over 24,100 civilians, mostly women and children, while more than 60,000 have been wounded and around 8,000 remain missing under the rubble. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Mexico, more than 700 migrants were rescued. In the state of Tlaxcala, and at least 4 people were arrested for presumed human trafficking. The Secretariat of Citizen Security, Secretariat of the Navy, and the Mexican Army led the rescue that took place in a warehouse in the municipality of Coazumolco. The group of migrants rescued was made up of 75 unaccompanied minors, 108 women, and 399 single men, all from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Ecuador, and Nicaragua. The victims were taken to an auditorium in the same locality to begin the corresponding immigration process, while the 4 detainees were placed at the disposal of the Attorney General's office to face their charges. In El Salvador, hundreds of citizens gathered in the capital to commemorate the 32nd anniversary of the peace accords. Salvadoran social movement marched from the central Cuscatlan Park to the Civic Plaza Cabinet General Geraldo Barrios in order to reiterate the validity of the pact signed in Mexico on January 16, 1992, that put an end to the war in the country. At the same time, Arevalo announced the setbacks in the national peace process due to the emergency regime imposed by President Nayib Bukele since March 2022. Members of the Bloc of Resistance and Popular Rebellion claimed that during the last few years their human rights have been violated. Colombian President Gustavo Petro issued a decree to extend the ceasefire with FARC dissidents. The Colombian head of state ordered the suspension of offensive military operations, police operation, and other actions contrary to what has been established at the peace talks. The bilateral ceasefire agreed between both parties, which began last October 16th, was to end this Monday, but as agreed on Sunday and based on the results obtained in the framework of the peace process, it will continue until next July 15. The extension seeks to strengthen and maintain rules and commitment in terms of protection of the civilian population. In Ecuador, social movements expressed their concerns about the increasing level of militarization in the country. Through a joint statement, the organization World Beyond War and the Coordinator for Peace pointed out that the military measures imposed by Daniel Noboa's government do not favor a climate of security, and on the contrary, they help to increase the levels of violence. They also demand that national sovereignty be respected and that foreign military troops not be allowed to enter the country. Since last Tuesday, the executive declared a state of exception and of internal armed conflict following violent attacks in the prisons and streets of different areas. Millions face freezing temperatures across much of the United States. The storm moved from the Atlantic. The storm has killed at least 4 people in the past few days, caused power outages for thousands in Northwest, snowfall in the south, and the suspension of flights, work, and sports activities in much of the country. Meteorologists said they predicted that the worst part of the storm could send icy winds into the mountains and the Dakotas. In this context, New York Governor W.H.O warned residents to stay indoors to protect themselves from the freezing temperatures. And we have come to the end of this brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Ana Rosabal. Thank you for watching.